Welcome to the Town of Austin work session for April 7th, 2015. We have both a work session and a special meeting tonight.
Yes.
So let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So why don't we, while we're waiting a few minutes, why don't we do our special meeting, Anne Marie? Okay? Yeah, our special meeting tonight is simply on last two budget adjustments, and tomorrow morning we go into audit. So it's two budget adjustments that we needed to do.
Okay. Councilmember Harder.
Present.
Councilmember Jeffrey.
Present.
Councilmember Blaha. Councilmember Wilshire.
Present.
Supervisor Donley.
Present.
Are there any public comments on the agenda items this evening? No.
I almost
So-
thought you raised your hand.
So did I. So the first resolution is finance budget modification. Resolved that the 2014 year-end budget is modified as described below. Transfer to GL account, maintenance and repair in the amount of $2,298. And do I have to read the two figures?
Transferred out
Transfer
from,
transfer from the GL account, sick incentive paper cleaning supplies in the amounts of $1,750 and $548.
Yep.
And TOV fund police, electricity in the amounts of $484, and transfer from GL account telephone, $484. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
So ends our special meeting for this evening, and 2014. Yeah. It's for the very short time that we had, is it from the police station?
Yep, it's from
Yeah.
the police station, so we just had to make a small transfer from when we still were powering the building back in January.
Remember, we didn't give it up till February 19th. A date burned in my brain.
And since we're asking, what is sick incentive?
One of Maddie's favorite ones.
Sick incentive is something that's offered to both of our unions, both the CSEA and the Teamsters. And it basically, I believe it's the same amounts for both contracts at this point, but if an employee who's full-time under contract doesn't use any sick time in the year, they receive a bonus. And then if they take off 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, so on and so forth. So it's budgeted for, but as you can imagine, we use it far less often than we budget for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good way, in this particular case, to do a budget modification and stay within the department.
With us on the board, we didn't have the insurance.
Yeah, the healthcare incentive, we took that away.
Yeah.
And with our big salary, they
I know.
even cut that back.
Well, that was before us. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Do we have a motion to adjourn into a regular work session?
Yes, we do.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so tonight we have a very interesting meeting ahead of us, and I thank you, Mike, for coming in. And we have Mike Gordon here, and he's going to talk to us primarily about community choice aggregate, okay? Because microgrids can be briefly talked about, but we're really working on the community choice aggregate. Sir,
Okay. Well,
you
this
got to
time-
talk into that mic. You've learned
You
that
got it.
a couple weeks
Okay.
ago.
I actually have enough.
Good.
There you go.
And what we'll do is we'll put this PowerPoint up on the webpage tomorrow morning.
Okay, so will I get in trouble if I pace?
No,
All right.
unless you
Wonderful.
disconnect the cord.
There we go. I just, just more comfortable. So basically, what I'm here to talk about is an opportunity that we have been given to participate. First of all, let me let you know who I am. I'm Sustainable Westchester. Austining is a member of Sustainable Westchester. I co-chair Sustainable Westchester along with Chris Burdick, who is the supervisor of Bedford.
I just want to make sure, can you hear him, Matt? Okay, great.
Yes, good? Okay. And we have been working, and I know you guys know about this in part because the board called for community choice aggregation to be passed as a legislative initiative by the Assembly and the Senate. And just to, so I'll just quickly explain what community choice aggregation is, and then I'll describe the process, and then I'll just hear questions, okay? So basically what community choice aggregation allows a community that opts to participate, it allows the community to do is it switches who the default electricity and in this case natural gas supplier is. So normally our electricity bills are, there are two parts to our electricity bill. One, there's poles and wires and there's a delivery charge. That's the one part. And two, there's the actual energy that's being purchased from a power plant on your behalf. And so what community choice aggregation does, now normally against our will, we always purchase from the utility for our poles and wires, for our delivery. But
And we're 100% Con Ed here.
yeah, 100, got it, thanks. But against our will, if we have a will, if we would like otherwise, if we say nothing, also the electricity, we are defaulted to the utility as our electricity supplier. Now, a lot of you have probably gotten, many of you may be even purchasing from a free market competitive electricity supplier. You're free to go out there and purchase from a free market electricity supplier. And nothing changes. You still get one bill from the utility, and that bill just includes the electricity supply component and the poles and wires component. So what community choice aggregation allows us to do is to switch who the default is. So the default becomes the community choice aggregator. And you can still go back to the utility. You can choose not to participate with the default. You can choose to go out and buy your energy competitively on your own. You can, or you can do nothing, and then you are defaulted to the community choice aggregator. Now, the state really is looking to encourage competition. And what the state has found is that even though there's competitive opportunities out there, 75% of the folks who have the opportunity to buy competitively are not. And some of the reasons that they're not are perfectly fine. When you're one house, you have no negotiating clout. When you're one house, you don't have the time necessarily to research the whole ball of wax and figure out that you're getting a good deal. When you're one house, you have no way of actually staying on that supplier to understand that whatever it is that the contract that you got, the offer that you got, is actually being offered to you consistently as you expected it to be offered to you. So what community choice aggregation does is it switches that default, and therefore those 75% of the folks who have not switched their supplier, unless they otherwise say that they want to stay with the utility, they end up coming on with the community choice aggregator, which creates absolutely superb opportunities for that aggregator to do the clout of aggregate buying. And because you have more purchasing, you can, in theory, get better prices. And in fact, that has borne itself out. Or to do things like fix prices on behalf of the residents and the commercial facilities in your municipality. So that's just the basic skinny on community choice aggregation. So I'll stop there.
And I just want to
answer questions and then.
I just want to, okay, just 1 second, but just explain that you can go back at any
Yes.
time. You don't have to stay on it if you choose not to.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't have to
Yeah.
explain it now, because you
Yeah.
have.
Okay, I'm sorry.
2 questions, please. One, oh, by the way, thank you for coming tonight.
Pleasure.
Um, one thing that I was concerned about on my first run through of your chart. Well, first of all, this is not the full that we got, right? This
Right.
is an abbreviated version.
Yeah, I've shortened it because I figure that you have long meetings.
Okay, that's good enough. So,
Closer
but,
to the mic because we're finding.
but I
we
see
don't
that you
hear.
have a. I was confused by this chart here that has the hybrid approach, and my either I was confused or concerned by what I thought it meant, which is you're adding potentially another layer of for lack of a better word, bureaucracy. Are you adding more layers of people who get involved in deciding where this goes, and does that outweigh the savings that are derived from, I guess, what are they, efficiencies of scale?
Yeah, so what we're finding when community choice aggregation is in place is that the savings average roughly 5 to 10% throughout the United States in the couple of places that are in the 5 states that are doing it. And some of the reasons for that, we can explore some of the reasons, are that the energy service providers who are out there, they're charging you their sales costs. And so you're actually paying for their quote-unquote customer acquisition costs. And the utilities, who are your default providers, have no real motivation to buy as optimally as they could buy because they're precluded from making money on the supply portion of the electricity. So you'll find there are savings from the aggregation, there are savings in the sales costs. You are getting additional, like, ombudsman's support, and that ombudsman support, the model that we are intending to do is $1 a megawatt hour, which is 1/10 of a penny per kilowatt hour, is what we expect it's going to cost us, Sustainable Westchester, to manage it. And that is far less than the sales cost savings and the aggregated benefits.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. And my second question is, oh yeah, so I do participate in what do you call it, a private source provider or whatever, and it was told to me that when I signed up, I guess it's a solar or wind or hydro or some combination of the three, that would usually go right in line with, they say, the Con Ed rates, and it wouldn't be that much more. Well, actually, I found that it's a lot more.
Yeah,
And I don't mind. I mean, I mind, but I don't mind. I think you have to support at some point what you believe in, even if you have to pay a little bit of a premium for it. But what I'm wondering is, how do you distinguish those private suppliers from what you're offering through the CCA?
In fact, the suppliers are likely to be the same. So it's the same panoply of suppliers who are registered with the state to be able to sell in the state. It's just that a number of them will not offer to the individual home because it's too expensive. The sales costs are just too expensive for them to offer it. And then those of them that do offer it to the home, they're going to be offering, that currently offer it to the home, they're going to be offering better rates because of the large group that you've got. It's basically group buying conceptually. So it's exactly the same suppliers.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, is what you saying basically the same? Because a lot of people come by my house. They're always walking around wanting you to change over this one into that one. Is that what you promote?
There are folks who are marketing electricity and natural gas privately. They will still be there. Those same folks are going to be knocking on the door in the same way that they always have. The only difference is that we, as a county, we're going to be able to pull together likely hundreds of millions of dollars of buying power as opposed to $2,000 or $3,000 of buying to be able to negotiate better rates with those folks. Additionally, we are ourselves being regulated by the Public Service Commission. In essence, they are saying we have proposed to them, and then when they approved it for us, they said, well, since this is the way you proposed it, you are going to have to keep tabs on the fact that you are living up to your deal, meaning that they are going to regulate us. But our proposal to the Public Service Commission is that we as a county, or as municipalities within the county, because not all municipalities are going to participate, we're going to put this out there for bid. And if we do not get one of two things happening, we're not going with the bid. So one is that we get a bid from one of these energy service companies that says 100% of the time we are guaranteeing that you're going to be lower than the utility rate. That's one possibility, and if that happens, we consider that a compliant bid. Two, if we get from these companies a fixed rate, because fossil fuel prices are so darn low right now. It's a 13-year low on fossil fuel prices. It's an absolutely propitious time to fix our rates. So if we get a fixed rate, which is actually less than the average price over the last year for the utility companies, we consider that an absolutely superb and compliant bid.
Right.
And so those are the two circumstances in which we're actually going to say yes. Now, even given the fixed rate, let's say we get a fixed rate and it's lower than the trailing prices. Now, if the utility rates go down, people can leave. So it's almost like acting as cap on the rate. They can go back to the utility. Now, if they do go back to the utility, they won't have the option of going back in for that fixed rate. Because after all, the energy
Can't just
service
jump around,
company went off and hedged the whole darn thing. But in fact, they do have the option to leave and go back to the utility if the fixed rate ends up being bad.
Well, I have one more question.
Sure.
Aggregate. What does that word mean?
Get together. Pull our purchases together.
Get a
Okay.
big group.
And
Yep.
that's fine for just a little group in here. But when you put it out there,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it
that's a
should
good
be.
point. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because it's called nationally community choice aggregation. That's what it's called nationally. We actually, improvement, when we put in for the legislative language, we called it municipal energy aggregation. Still had the
Yeah, that-
aggregate in it. We thought we were being really sharp. But when the commission went out and they did their proceeding, they called it community choice aggregation. So I think you're right. We got to speak English.
But it's also one word that that people will get used to too. You know. So
Yeah.
I have a couple of
I'm
questions.
sorry to hear that. That's probably true. That they will get used to.
They
it.
will
I
have to
mean,
get used to it.
Not that you have a couple of questions.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sure. So I, like Eric, went to Green Power. I said I don't want anything from Indian Point, so I signed up with another company. Okay. Are you going with Green Energy?
We're intending to do a bid and ask for 3 responses. Actually 4.
Okay.
So we're going to be looking for a variable price, which is, by the way, likely to save people 5-10%, but there's going to be no guarantee in it, I suspect. We're going to be asking for guarantees with that variable price,
Right.
but I suspect we're not going to get those guarantees.
Mm-hmm.
And that's any mix at all,
Right.
any mix. Then we're going to be asking for a fixed price, any mix. Then we're going to be asking for an entirely green, carbon nuclear free. And so what we're going to get there is, I suspect, a price that's going to be higher than the utility rate, but lower than anybody can get for green energy on their own.
Okay.
That's what I suspect we're going to get. And then the question is, are we going to go for a fixed renewable price, In addition, these are discussions that we intend to have collaboratively. And maybe we'll just put it out there and ask for everything and see what we get.
Right.
Or are we gonna go with a quote-unquote light green option, which would be higher renewable content than what is in the mix of the grid as a whole, but, you know, some nod towards cost effectiveness.
Okay, and my second question is, well, the same question I asked you when I came to the village meeting. We are in a very aggressive solar program right now. And so we don't want to confuse the public, much like that word. We don't want to confuse the public as to be saying, go solar, go solar, go solar, and then we're going to have this community aggregation. So, my question was, my biggest bill in the winter is not my electricity. By the way, I had the opposite thing happen to me when I went with green energy. My bill actually went down. And they told me it would go up, but it actually went down. Now, where,
You need to find out who she
Yeah.
well, you know what it is? You know what the difference is? Eric has smaller children. I'm empty nesting. You know, I walk around the house. I was taught as a young child to walk around the house. There, like you could walk in my house and it would be pitch black all the time. So, but anyway, so we want to make sure that if we decide to do this, that when that message goes out, that we are looking at a gas part of it, because what I find astronomical is my gas charges. I have gas heat, I have gas stove, I have gas, just about everything in my house. And we are a very, in this particular, remember, you're going to different communities that some of them don't even have all Con Ed. Some of them have absolutely no gas in their community at all. Everything is oil or you don't have gas? Yeah, so oil or electric, you know. So, so that's the other thing is we want to emphasize that we're looking for a gas component in this thing, which you and I have spoken about several times since that day too. And so I talked about the solar, I talked about.
Let me just say, and this is something that you asked me, and I think it's important clarification.
Right.
If you're getting net metering due to a solar,
Right,
it is completely unaffected.
right,
It's just everything, you still can get advantage of better energy rates for
so net
whatever
metering,
energy.
so to the public that may not have been to some of our solarized meeting, net metering means that your meter's actually going backwards.
Yep.
You're storing electricity for this lovely winter we just had as compared to you're collecting it for the summer and you can use it in the winter.
It is
So
still going backwards.
it's going backward, but you have it all stored up at Con Edison in our particular case, and they're still sending that out to you as you use it later, because that's part of our solarized program. You're not renting your roof. You're actually
Yeah.
going into a program where you either lease or purchase your solar equipment, and then all that electricity is, one of the key requirements of Solarize was that all your electricity is yours.
Yep.
So those are my questions. Did you have anything right now, or you want to pass it on to Kim?
I'm not wise enough to understand any of this.
It's actually, when you actually look at it for a long time, you go, wow, this is pretty easy. But I will tell you,
It takes
and
a while, though,
one
and-
second, Kim, and I will tell you that 5 years ago when Mike brought this to a group of people, everyone looked at him and said, okay, guy, you know, whatever. And look at how far we've come, but look at how far technology has come in 5 years. Look how far everything has come in 5 years. Because everybody, like, people were like in the room like this going, what are you talking about? Mike was way ahead of us.
So it's funny because
Remember at the library?
6 years ago, we actually proposed to the Recovery Act that we have a microgrid,
Right.
Westchester-wide microgrid, and they said this is a crazy idea. Microgrids are not going to work, you know, the Recovery Act.
Which is
money.
another whole part that we
Yeah.
might not get to tonight, but we'll definitely talk to you about.
5 years ago, we started talking about community choice aggregation, and we started really pushing community choice aggregation. And I have consistently found that I do get these blank stares, and you know, and it's people you think, oh well, you know, people don't like me.
Yeah.
No, it isn't that. It's that you're speaking Greek. So, you know.
But we've come a
You
long.
understand Greek now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but we've come a long way, and some of the other things, and Kim can have her mic time, and some of the other things to understand is that there's rumors amok that Indian Point will be closing in a year. There's rumors that Con Edison prices are going to go up in the double-digit numbers. I don't want to say that because, so we need something. That's why solar is so cool because, you get off that grid altogether, that electric grid. But, so anyway, Kim.
I too probably don't know quite enough, but when you say we, is it Sustainable Westchester that is going to be the body that is going to be going out to price and bid?
Yes.
Okay.
And so and it's a really, and this is a question, it's a really sharp question that you're asking to figure out exactly how the contractual stuff is going to work. The way the contractual stuff will work is that it's a tri-party agreement. And so the energy service company will send us the contract, and that contract will be signed by the municipality and Sustainable Westchester. So it'll be 3 parties. Sustainable Westchester will manage the whole ball of wax, which means that we, Sustainable Westchester, have to report to the Public Service Commission. And Sustainable Westchester will therefore be able to provide additional customer service support to the community. The contract will be a 3-way contract: municipality, energy service provider, Sustainable Westchester.
And so you were talking about the county, and chances are that not every municipality within the county will do this at the same time, or they're not. But so are you talking about the contracts being by municipality, or if Ossining, town and village, let's say, plus Croton, I mean, I'm just making it up, or Scarsdale, anybody, if a few of them are going out, would Sustainable Westchester be going out to bid for all of those at the same
Yes.
time to get a higher,
Yes.
a better price because
Yes.
more? Okay.
Yes.
And I just want to spend a minute talking about Sustainable Westchester.
Great.
There was a group of municipalities that got together to do energy, environmental savings, and have their homes looked at and stuff. And that used to be called NWEAC. Okay? So then there was, how did they pronounce the other ones? SWEAC. So NWEAC was Northern Westchester, and SWEAC was Southern Westchester. And NWEAC and SWEAC got together and became Sustainable Westchester, which is much easier for everyone to say. So this is a group of probably right now, I think it's 18 municipalities.
No, 42.
42.
Out of the 45 municipalities.
Wow.
Are members
In
of
Westchester County.
Sustainable Westchester.
So the villages are members, the towns are members, and the cities are members. So, so it's pretty exciting when you look at it. And it used to be 17, used to be NWEAC, right? Yeah, the NWEAC part of it.
900,000 folks.
So 900,000 folks. So say that you even had 25% of that sign up. You're having buying power that you would never have normally as a single municipality, or definitely not as a individual. When you go over and you go, can I just sign up? Can I sign this piece of paper and have you switch me over?
Yep.
But so it's pretty. And we want to stress to people. We're going to talk about this a little bit more before we do anything about it. But we want to stress to people that it's an opt-in, opt-out. The only people that will be defaulted to it are the people that stayed with Con Edison and never went to a third party.
Yeah.
If you never signed one of those pieces of paper, I still get a Con Ed bill.
I'm Ken. So let's.
You never did anything.
I've
right?
never done anything. I'm sorry. I've never done anything.
No,
ever.
that's okay. No, you never did anything about your electricity. Like
No.
you didn't go to all these things and have somebody sell you.
So
on
I
this.
have Con Edison. I know that. I have Con Edison electricity.
Yep.
I have my heat is oil. So I'm just trying to get a real look at how
So
this
what
would
will
work.
happen to you?
And
is,
I want to opt in.
Well, you don't.
Okay, you won't even have
I
to.
won't have to.
So what would happen to you is the first thing is that the board would pass it, and then the utility sends over data on the total amount used. And that total amount is then, we pull together the total amount from this town and this municipality and this municipality and this town and this city, and we send that out to bid. Then the municipality at this point is going to be letting people know. Newspaper, news releases, email lists. Hey, we're in the midst of this kind of a process. Maybe public hearings if you want. You know, it's your choice. Then we'll get bids in. And we will then decide on the best bids and what we're going to offer to you, to all of the folks. And so there will be a default. If you say and do nothing, because you're then going to get a notification from the, it'll look as if it's from the municipality. In fact, the energy service provider
Will
or the
provide it.
utility may actually be sending it out. The utility said, no, we don't want to do that. Now they're saying, hey, maybe we do want to do that. Fine either way. And so you would get a notice that would say, if you do nothing, you're going to be moved to this supplier, and your rate will be this amount fixed. And it'll describe just precisely what it'll be. But in theory, you should have heard about that from 6 other places. But if you don't want that to be the case, please send us a note and let us know that you don't want that to be the case, and everything will stay the same and you'll stay with us, the utility.
Yeah.
If you prefer to do the green power or this variable rate or one of these other things, you could also let us know that you'd prefer to do this green power or the variable rate. But if you do nothing, you're going to be defaulted into this energy price saving rate with this supplier. And so you do nothing, your bill continues to come from the utility, it just will be lower.
And
That's it.
And is the bid that Sustainable Westchester, is it for a certain amount of, how much time?
We are permitted from the Public Service Commission to do 1 year.
Okay.
So what we're going to actually do is send out to bid for up to 3 years. We're going to receive all our offers, and then when and if we get a 3-year fixed price, which we expect we're going to be able to wheedle because we want to wheedle one. We're
I was going to say, I'm going to use that word, wheedle.
We're going to then go to the Public Service Commission and say, hey, look, we got this 3-year price. We really want to do this. Can you allow us to sign this 3-year contract? And I suspect the Public Service Commission will
We'll
say
say
yes.
yes.
So you have, let's say that you have in the town of Ossining, which is really would be the only, it would be the unincorporated area. But between the town of Ossining and the village of Ossining, you have $1 million kilowatt hours, or whatever you would have it, you
How
know.
many people? You want me to take a guess?
It's, we have, well, in Briarcliff, in the town of Ossining and the village of Ossining, we have 37,000 people.
Okay.
But we have
Any-
10,200 parcels.
Okay. 10,200 parcels, meaning probably 80,000 megawatt hours, which is 80 million kilowatt hours.
Okay, we're getting much too deep. Okay. Okay. So, but this is my question. I don't know how I got off on a little tangent there. Yeah. So that gives you a little buying power, right? So, let's say that so right now, you're going to take, if we do this whole thing, you'll take the people that never did anything after the deregulation happened, okay? So you take all what if you did something during that deregulation period and you went to green power? Can you opt into this thing?
You may. However, it is let the buyer beware in the sense that you have to read your contract and make sure that you don't have an exit price on that contract. Because some of these guys, you read the fine print.
But if you've been doing it for years, is it an automatic rollover and stuff? But we'll just have to read it.
When your contract ends, you can always
Right.
opt in and
Okay.
go ahead and join
And
this
would we
thing.
since we didn't opt out and opt back in again, could we get that that price that, that you negotiate?
Um,
The initial price?
if it is later
That's what attracted me with
on,
it.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not certain. I suspect the answer is yes, but we have to wait until we get the RFP responses in from
Right.
these suppliers so that they tell us the terms of
So,
entry and
so
exit.
you're a regular Con Ed customer. You've done nothing, since the deregulation. So you know on your bill exactly what you're paying per kilowatt.
Yes.
Okay, so
Well,
so
it's pretty confusing also.
it is,
Yeah.
but So we can show everybody like this is the number you're looking at to compare it to this number that you negotiated. Okay,
And we have to do the all-in math
of course you do.
to make sure that, comparing the everything in your bill with everything in your new bill, that we're going to be consistently saving, or that we expect that we're going to be saving with a fixed price.
Right. Eric. Oh, did you have a question?
I do, I actually have, let's hear it, let's hear
Go,
it.
go.
Go, Jeff, show.
So, this is basically the solar panel on the roof, and you're talking about that sort of sustainability, and that kind of contract, and with all of the ins and outs of it. Is that right?
You mean it's like when
Is it any
you
different?
liken
Is it any
this?
different
Well,
other
let
than
me.
the fact that there's a
So let me feedback
solar-
what I think I hear you're saying. Now, if you have a solar panel on your roof, nothing changes. You're still going to get all the benefits of that, and you can get the benefits of this in addition. But it is like the deal that you're making with the solar company, in that you're making a long-term deal with the solar company when you put a solar panel on your roof. You're saying, I'm going to buy power from you for a certain period of time.
I'm going to create my own power.
Yeah, in essence. So it is similar in that sense. You are signing a contract to agree to purchase from a specific place.
So if your home was not eligible for solar, this would be great for you.
Yeah,
you know.
whether it is eligible or not. you
No,
know.
but some people, they're very, very honest.
Yeah.
They're very, very honest. They go to your house, they do an inspection. If you are not going to be able to do it because your house has too many woods around it, or the roof doesn't fit.
Now,
Okay, is that a question?
I will not distract you with what I'll come to you about in 2 months.
Okay.
About that solar. About what you can do when your home is shaky.
Okay, no, you won't distract us
tonight.
with that.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. And we're not gonna talk about microgrids tonight, because that's something we're gonna talk about with the village of Austin, because most
Okay.
of the buildings are them. But anyway, Eric has a couple.
Just let me underscore
Yeah.
that Con Edison has said that they
Ossining.
have problems in Ossining. It is your water treatment facility is, what you got is a great opportunity here to be.
See, the reason that we have to do that is while the water filtration property is in the unincorporated part of the town, it's owned by the village of Ossining, so it's going to have to be like
Yep.
so if we can put a grid up there and light up the houses around there and, have backup lighting for the houses up there and do the water plant, that's why it has to be a combined
joint,
effort.
Yeah. And it is a tremendous opportunity for you guys to be lit up, for some portion of your town to be lit up when the rest of us are being blacked out. But you know what? We're not talking about microgrids.
Right. So Eric, has another question. I guess.
So my understanding of the bidded process is you're basically doing an apples to apples so that everybody's getting the same bid. But it sounds to me like what you're talking about is apples to oranges, because you're saying that people have a choice. You could either do the green, which is going to be more expensive. You could do the light green, which is probably going to be a little bit more expensive. Or you can do the cost savings, which is going to be strictly looking at economies of scale. But those are separate.
Yeah. But if you do nothing, you're going cheap.
But what are you bidding? What are you putting out for bid?
We're putting out everyone's supply. Everybody's purchasing as one bid. And then the suppliers are going to come back and say, here's what we're going to offer as the default. here's what we're gonna offer as a green option. They're gonna give us a menu
I see.
of different.
So each provider is giving you the A, B, C, D choices.
That's exactly right.
Now I get
And
it.
it is likely, for simplicity's sake,
Yeah.
we're gonna go with one provider.
Right, okay.
But he might have
I get it,
multiple
though.
choices.
Yes, it'll have multiple.
I get that,
yeah.
okay.
Anything else, sir?
No, it's good.
So, just to emphasize that when we do come back and talk about microgrids, some of our homes up by one of our most, you choose all your critical buildings, which of course our water filtration plant is one of them. Up there we actually have a situation up there where we have a lot of houses still on well water. And if you're on wells and you have no electricity, take it from us in Sandy, we lived it, you don't have water. You know, so it's very, very
Unless you
good.
have distributed generation actually
Right.
backing up the pump.
But it's much too complicated for tonight.
Yeah.
We have a very long agenda
But
this
that's
evening.
Great. If
It's-
what
it's
you're
a-
saying is that you're looking at a microgrid, which then will allow the wells to continue to pump.
Right.
Who owns the meter?
The meter service provider, which means Con Ed, owns
So-
your meter.
But Con Ed will, even if you went solar, Con Ed still continues to own your meter.
Yep.
You just put this little inverter next to it and, and put these little boxes. Been to one too many Solaris meetings. So,
I want to thank you
Kind
for
of
this
so.
information.
I thought it was.
really, really informative. It's good.
Yeah,
Good information. Thank you.
okay.
I thank you too, but I think it's informative.
Listen,
I'm about like Jeff.
Northern.
And I have a sympathetic.
Let me explain something. As I started the conversation earlier, when he first came to us, we were all sitting in the audience going, "What? What?" But as you change and as you realize that, look at what's going on in California with water. Look what's going on in different places. That we need to bond
You could go to
together.
Rockland and see whether you don't have to go to Cali.
But I'm just saying because that's on the news every night.
You just need to hear it 3 times.
Yeah.
That's it. You hear something 3 times, maybe it's told to you slightly in a different way. By the 3rd time, you got it.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Okay.
You want to just go through it 2 more times
I
then?
was going to say, are you coming back?
So we'll discuss it a little bit more, Mike, but thank you for coming tonight. And,
pleasure.
and it was
Thanks.
very good.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Are we ready? Okay. So I'm going to let, except she walked away. I'm going to let, no. I'm going to let Maddie talk a little bit about the Affordable Care Act reporting requirements. And we have a company here tonight, CPI HR. And it's just some of the more mind-boggling, I'm going to call it unfunded mandates, because that's what it is. And it's about the health care. So Maddie, you want to give an introduction? Because you brought,
I will try. So I met Mike and Kristen at the Association of Towns, or I sat through a very engaging presentation about the Affordable Care Act reporting requirements that are now the responsibility of employees throughout the country. And it was something that we had known certain parts about, but we were pretty confident that we understood what our requirements were. You may remember in the fall of last year, our Labor Council had prepared some resolutions for us about the measurement period and so on and so forth. And we were pretty confident that, we're up to speed. This presentation by Mike and Kristen made me so sad. And we gathered afterwards and everyone said, "What did you learn?" And I learned about branding your town. And I was like, I learned that we are in trouble because we're going to have to figure out. Yeah.
no other way but reporting
No,
wise.
but this is a huge requirement that we didn't understand that we had. And from listening to, Mike and Kristen have met with me a couple of times. It seems as though we're not alone in this, that many employers are discovering that they don't know nearly enough, and it seems as though maybe, I'll turn it over to them for that part.
So,
Yeah.
join us.
Thanks, Maddie.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Our presentation isn't that bad. Our,
It's bad, but not
our,
bad.
Not that
our sad
shocking, not that
presentation
shocking.
is in the book, so if you want to look at it, you can.
Okay.
But what we wanted to
You have to talk
stress-
into that mic, because that's for the TV.
What we wanted to stress in the meeting with the Association of Towns is that, like you had said, there is an unfunded mandate, and reality
That's our middle
is-
name.
And the reality is, if you don't know what's coming, you can't defend yourself, and there's penalties involved. So the goal of our presentation has always been to basically warn you of what your obligations are. And one of the things, the first challenge that you have to do as a business, and we traded emails, Maddie and I, this week, in regards to whether you're over 50 full-time equivalents or under 50 full-time equivalents. And one of the interesting things of this law is, in New York State, health insurance has been 2 to 50 has been deemed as community rated. So most employers would feel that if they're involved in this type of health insurance, that they're not subject to healthcare reform. But another interesting thing of this law was they basically took your active full-time employees that get benefits from day one, and we have roughly, I think, 35 was the number we traded back and forth in emails. And then they stack your part-time hours for all your employees to find full-time equivalents. And why the law was written that way was to expose more businesses to the penalty phase of the law and have to comply. It does not mean you as an employer have to offer to part-time employees. It just got you above the bridge to 50 full-time equivalents to now have to do all the employer reporting, have to measure variable employees to see if they hit the 30-hour mark. And I think you came down with, Maddie, that you're thinking right now we're at 51, 52. You got the number?
We're incredibly fortunate in that we have just over the 50 threshold, literally by decimal points. So we had kind of gone.
She's
Pardon me?
being sarcastic.
We had kind of gone back and forth over the last couple days, counting people and so on and so forth. People who have retired during the year, they don't count as a person. If they've been replaced, their replacement counts as a person, but not them. So going back and forth, what we came up with is we actually do have 35 full-time employees, and then full-time equivalents, we have 16.89. So we're literally 1.89 people over the...
What's
the
the
50.
part-time? What's the part-time, full-time equivalent portion of this?
It's 30 hours per week is what you have to look at. So you count up all of the part-time hours and divide it by 1,560, because that's 30 times 52.
Okay.
And that would count as one employee.
Okay.
So every year, you're gonna have to declare if you're large, 50 or over, or 50 and under. And it can change every year.
You can see that just by, because
Just
we're
by
so
a few
close.
hours, right.
Right.
So in the future, and it's always the year behind, so you measured right now 2015 for 2016, 2014 for 2015, always the year behind for the coming year. You also have, no matter what you are, small or large, you have the obligation of employer reporting because you're with NYSHIP, and NYSHIP is a self-insured plan. In your packet, there's a whole thing from the IRS that explains employer reporting. Our presentation usually is, we can talk for 3 hours on this, but, so we'll try to keep it, but this year, you're gonna declare that you're gonna be over 50. So you're gonna have to do the tracking and the reporting.
Who's checking to make sure? If we're not sure that if we have 50.2 or whatever, if we said 50, I'm not advocating doing anything wrong. I'm just saying if we're not sure, who's going to?
The IRS. The
Okay.
IRS is in charge.
Just checking.
The IRS is in charge.
Oh, yeah, it's not even a state thing.
Of
Yeah.
implementing.
What, see how, whoa, that was a backup. Fine.
So the IRS is the one that's gonna come in and do Affordable Care Act audits, making sure you're
Okay.
giving out your notices of exchange, you're monitoring your people, you're handing out all your reporting requirements.
You actually get another report with your at the end of year with your W-2s, right?
Exactly, that's your 1095. She's keeping up. Your 10.
Well, no, I am in the next office.
That's what the trifold in there is explaining that you have to do because you're self-insured. So everybody who's covered under your plan will get a 1095 at the end of the year. And no matter where you work or you're covered somewhere else, you'll get a 1095 from your employer or from your carrier if you're a small company and you're not self-insured. Proves that you have insurance, so you don't have to play the individual mandate in
Okay.
2016.
Okay. So,
Our services, what we're here to talk about is our services. Mike and I at CPI-HR specialize in Affordable Care Act. So we've both been in the benefits industry for over 20 years, and we have migrated to
Started really young.
the Affordable Care Act in 2010. So, and I think we gave our references, and we write a lot of municipalities and school districts around.
it became a new cottage industry, right?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we found that school districts, municipalities don't have the staff to do it themselves.
Well, you don't have the wherewithal, you
The
know,
way it's
because we're so
changing-
busy, you know?
Right. The way that
Yeah.
it's changing, and you just don't want to risk a fine or anything.
Or be in the newspaper.
Exactly. So I think that we gave two different contracts, one that included the tracking system. So we do a hands-on, very customer service friendly service and work with your employees from the HR people about the notices all the way to showing you what Cadillac tax projection is.
Can you talk about that a little
Oh, sure, that's Mike's specialty.
I love the fact they call it Cadillac.
Well, it's kind of, it had, I guess, a lot of glitz, to call it.
That's what a Cadillac is.
And everybody just kind of assumed that it was meant to be based on plan design.
Okay.
When you cut through all the nuts and bolts of it, it really comes down to that either a business or an employee take a pre-tax deduction for the premium that they pay for their health insurance. And they've drawn a line in the sand, and it said in 2018, if your single premium is over $10,200 total cost for both you and your employee, and your family rate is over $27,500, any dollar over and above that has a 40% excise tax. And it's payable, as the law's written today, it's payable by the employer. So the municipality
What?
would have to pay that 40% excise tax.
Okay.
It includes flexible spending accounts to add up to that $10,200.
Right.
It includes AFLAC plans that you offer, like a specific disease plan that is opted in by your employee. They're paying on a pre-tax dollar basis.
Yep.
It would be a cancer policy, specified disease, or what am I forgetting? Hospitalization.
10,200, meaning that's how much the employers are
And
paying?
you pay. No,
And together, how much it costs?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it really came down to that it's any dollar amount, because either the business, it came off the bottom line for that expense, that employee benefit expense, and then the employee took the pre-tax deduction through their paycheck for their contribution.
Right.
They're drawing a line in the sand and saying anything over $10,200 is going to be 40 cents on the dollar,
And-
as far as an excise tax.
How much is a plane?
What's an excise tax? Hello?
Yep, sorry. I your side talk.
Who's like,
Well, she's
An
chirping in
excise tax
it.
is a tax above what you pay now, so it's a specialized tax. The IRS, you have excise taxes on, for certain farms have them, it's just an additional tax that they're adding on. There's a whole tax form for it.
so when it's called a
Tax and-
Cadillac, that means we're paying for something that we might not want to have? I don't get it.
Well, what it is basically doing, when you look at the law, we have now 11.7 million people that are insured through the exchange.
Yeah.
The Cadillac tax, and 86% of those 11.7 million people are getting a subsidy paid for by us to offset based on their income to pay for their health insurance.
Yeah.
The Cadillac tax is a fund of money that they're using to repay the subsidies.
Okay, so, and what they had hoped for with the Affordable Care Act was they would get all those 20-year-olds that never get sick.
Right, into it. The Cadillac tax was put in there because you have people that have a higher cost plan, a better plan, and you have people that are uninsured. So the current government says we need to tax the people who have a higher cost, better plan, and insure the people with no plan. So instead of the differential like this, the differential is
Right.
gonna be equal. And we have clients with NISHIP, and we've done the projection, and you're already going to hit the Cadillac tax.
Yeah,
So-
that was Kim's question, is how much, you know,
Your
we're
current-
nearly there now, and we have another 3 years of rate
Right,
increases
and
to
that's-
go,
And
so we're gonna hit
I
it.
think what we have to clarify is the Cadillac tax is not an option. Like, we can't go down to the, you know, to the Toyota.
Hyundai.
Hyundai.
And that's the
Yeah.
other thing I was gonna say, is we're on the New York State plan, and,
Right.
okay? But also, as they explained, this $10,200 threshold is a national threshold. So people who are in Montana, who presumably might have less expensive plans through their employer, it might take them much longer to reach $10,200.
Right.
But here, things just cost more.
Where, do we know how much how much, I mean, I know you know, how much is a plan now?
Oh, yeah,
About $800 a month for single, and about $1,800 for family.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So-
within
so
our,
that- So
within our
you should extrapolate that out for the year, and that becomes,
10,000.
so
Yeah.
800 times
Never mind,
12, okay.
never mind the people that
Right.
are on flex plans.
Right,
and-
then you
Yeah.
have to add in the flex plan, so
And the
it could be
Aflac stuff.
different,
And
right,
the-
and,
okay.
right, what we do, you have to take every individual person, put them, whether they're on single or family, what the total cost is, add in their flex amount, add in if they have a voluntary plan, and then add it across, and you have to take that 805 monthly and bring it up for your trend, which trend's running NISHIP, what?
about 6.5%.
So you have to
over the last-
trend.
So before you totally, you know, like, not only confuse us, confuse the TV audience out there, hi.
I actually didn't look like that because I didn't understand, although I did. I was trying to figure out what does this, I have NISHIP but through the state.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out what the state's gonna do. If the state has to pay it and they already have the exchange and they're already paying that, so how are our municipalities, we're a municipality, how are we going to end up paying more?
Wait a minute. On top of that, we have our funding from taxpayers, as the state does. So
Right.
you're paying taxes,
Right.
I believe we had a tea party over this, you know, many, many years ago. Anyway, why you're here today, because this is something, much like Mike said before, you need to listen to this 3 times before. The first time I heard about it, I went like this. I said, Maddie, that can't possibly be. No one else seems to be like a deer in the headlights, right? And then I was sitting here when the village was explaining, the personnel office from the village was explaining it to their board, and I thought they were going to cry. So, so we have a couple of options, and I think that the first year is very essential that we get it right, do what we have to do to get it right, find out what we have to report, and then we can renegotiate with you in future years, because a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes we actually do things and we hope that they come out the way that they're supposed to come out. But this is not something you can even say, okay, next week we'll, okay, we still had to do 2 budget adjustments, so that's cool. But we can just sit here and read a piece of paper and move money around because we have it. This is something that if we do it wrong,
Yeah, there's penalties.
More than pay for
you
itself
said-
compared to the penalties. I
You
know.
said that you offered 2, you started to say you offered 2 options of, one, I was listening. We were listening. We weren't just asking. So you, reporting and tracking, okay?
Yep, and the reporting and tracking, if I'm over 50 full-time equivalents,
Yeah.
then I have to do 2 things. Okay, I have to do the tracking of my part-time and variable employees, track their hours, and see if they hit that 30-hour threshold. And if I'm over 50, I have to do the employer reporting. What's unique, because NISHIP is a self-funded plan, is that even if I'm under 50, and that was the other proposal, because we didn't know where the numbers were, that had a different fee. Now, I think because if we work on it for a year and we do the tracking, I think we can get to the second proposal dollar the second year.
Right.
Because we'll have a better handle on what you have as far as variable employees.
It's,
You know,
I mean, we're not anywhere, and I know that they already passed it in the village, and God bless you, because they have summer camps, they have pool people, they have a lot more employees. Sorry, Tom. Tom is our controller and their treasurer, so he plays a dual role here. And we have seasonal workers. We have some part-timers that work all year long. But it's very, very interesting to see. It's very important, too, that we get this right at the beginning. I believe it's very, very important. And since all day we've been, we're under 50, we're over 50, we're under 50, we're over 50. And, and we can...
I said, great.
And we can regulate, our, and then during this year, we can learn to regulate our part-timers a little bit more, that if we need to bring you down from, instead of working 7 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon as a seasonal worker, you might work 9 to 3. And we need to look at that and adjust and make that happen, because as soon as he said IRS, and we all went, ooh, okay,
Yeah, notice
Force
Kim
us
didn't
into
ask no
that.
more questions.
And what we'll do is we'll look at historical data from your 2014 and then look at 2015. So you'll have actually 2 years to say, okay, were we, weren't we? And then for 2016, we'll be able to look at it in a better. And both of those options come with, walking through all your policies, answering any questions, all that back service. We do mock ACA audit. So we'll come in and we'll,
Mock
after we
audit.
get,
That
we'll
should be
get you
right
all
up your
set
lane.
up, and then we'll come in and say,
Trial.
okay, this is what, if we're gonna do an audit, what they're gonna go through.
Tom looked very happy about
And-
that.
and more, and
He
more
was like,
He's
important-
in audit.
Another
He's in massive audit.
And more importantly, you'll benefit from exactly what the village already negotiated in our contract, and that is, they wrote it in the contract that states that should you get an ACA audit, we'll be here side by
I was
side.
sitting in the audience. I was sitting in the audience when that was brought up, and I said, of course, that I would. Of course, they're like an accountant.
Right, and we do that anyway, but from now on, we'll actually have it in
So
there.
what was the price of the package that we would be going
Yeah,
with?
I
for
think
the-
they had actually offered us 3 prices for 3 different packages. The lowest one was simply just legislative updates. I think we had talked about, right? Which we do not want. We need more help than that. The second choice for under 50, I think, was 5,000, and then over 50 was 8,500.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so if we went with the 8,500, you're going to help us with the 2 years, so we can see trending start. You're going to be there for the audits. You're going to be there for everything.
Yes.
And that's the economies of scale, because we know the village is paying more than that. So it's like, yeah,
Yes, it's
Yeah.
based on employee
That's
size.
over 50?
Over 50.
yeah. Yeah, so we right on that cusp, so you don't want to take any chances, because any fines have got to be close to that number, when they walk in the door, I've learned, in private sector, when they walk in the door, they're leaving with what it costs them to be there.
A little unknown fact within the law, they've actually budgeted for up to 16,000 federal employees to do audits. Wow.
Really?
Over the duration.
Over the duration of through 2018. So that the goal was to actually have the employee base out there.
I
And
would
there
like,
has
I
been a
would like
lack
to
of
see them walk
information.
into, as Kim said before, I'd like to see them walk into the state and say, we're going to audit you.
I'm
You know?
just,
I'm
just trying to
mind-boggling.
figure it out, because the state is paying for that, plus offering the exchange, which we're paying for through the DOH, and then the government's going to say, well, we might fine you, or we're going to charge you the 40 cents on the dollar for over, because for sure.
Wait a minute,
we're
they're gonna
over
do that to
10,000.
us as a little municipality too, right?
But we are 50, we're kind of around 50 people at excise, I mean, I don't know how many dollars, we're not gonna be, I don't think we're gonna be too high, even in, so you said 6%.
We're
almost Over- there
now, and we have 3 years of 6.5%.
Yeah.
6.5%, right. So we'll be, but I would think, I'm just shocked at the state.
And one of the things that's a challenge, you're right on it. I mean, because how is the state going to do it? And I can tell you, we've been working with municipalities down here for now 3 years, some of them, and we have made a lot of noise with NISHIP. NISHIP was not, it wasn't even on their radar. And if you think about it,
I want to know what municipalities were so ahead of the time, yeah, that they been working for the 3 years, or was that just on benefits and stuff like that?
Nope. Town of Eastchester was one of them that we started
Really?
with back. Yep.
Yeah, Eastchester Dobbs.
What do they know that we don't like?
They actually read the law a little careful when it first came out.
They
right?
put their hands up and called us
Yeah.
after they saw us at a GFOA presentation,
Oh,
or
okay.
Association of Towns. Yeah.
My favorite detail.
Municipalities in Westchester have done just that.
We sent the list, and I want to say there's now upwards of 20 that we're working with.
Out of 45.
Out of 45, and we
Yeah.
know there's 45.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Because of
only
my
have
cord.
38. We're trying to make a list here.
Oh, yeah. It was a contest.
And it's a drastic change. You know,
Yeah.
it's a drastic
Like
change in how
Scrabble.
you've done business in the past.
Yeah.
It's more task driven. I will add one more comment that she was whispering in my ear, and that was that the only health plan that's exempt from this is the federal plan.
Oh, of course, because they can't audit themselves, right? So do you have enough staff to do these 20 or 30
Yes.
or 45 municipalities
Yes.
and just in Westchester County? Never mind. This is not just even New York, but she's right. Montana won't hit those numbers. You know, no offense, anyone from Montana. But, you know, we're talking about the Midwest. They don't have the kind of cost of living that we have here. We're extremely, extremely high cost of living here, so.
Can you just tell me where you're, like how big you are, where you're based, you know, just a little bit about you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, maybe Maddie knows.
Yeah, no,
maybe.
CPI-HR is based out of Ohio, Salon,
so you
Ohio.
are.
We are in Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
So we will be the face on your account always. We have back people who will do some of the back work and the processing and all of that. But for your employee meetings, for your questions, and we have, I mean, all of you have now our cell phones and our emails. We're very accessible. But CPI HR has about probably 61 employees now, give or take 5.
And you're from Syracuse.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
that alone, you know. It's still snowing up there.
piles of snow. So we come down here for the sun.
Or rain.
All right. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Do you have a question, Eric?
No, but so you have over 50 employees, so you're
Oh yeah, we're
you,
exposed
you,
to it.
you got you,
We're
get
Yeah.
the Cadillac.
You got
tax,
it.
huh?
So I'll be in Syracuse for a week in June. So
Come on, visit.
I'm
Visit.
hoping you have sun by then too.
It's usually July or August. You
Oh.
might be a little early.
And one other thing, I just want to say, thank you for having for speaking in a language that we can all understand.
Yes.
'Cause- and everybody understands Cadillac. Good, bad, or indifferent, they know what a Cadillac is.
When you look at the slide, when you have questions, you know, when you go look through there, if you have any questions, come back to us. In my parting note, since you brought up Cadillac tax again, there's a Republican opposition bill that's out there, and the Cadillac tax may be changed from how it is published today, should the next election take place and a Republican president wins. But both of them are looking for a means to pay for the subsidies through the
Right,
exchange.
right.
So the difference with it is that 35% of whatever my employer pays for me for my health insurance will be an imputed income tax to me.
Oh man.
So if you pay $20,000 for my health plan, roughly 35%, I'll just use rough numbers, is $6,000 that will be reported on my W-2. I show up to do my individual taxes, and if I'm sitting at a 30% tax bracket, that's an $1,800 tax bill for me that I haven't funded with other federal taxes. So both sides, and it's really party lines, you know, the employers pay the bill on the current law. The Republicans, not employers. We don't want to pass the expense to the employers. We want those who share. So it's strict party line on how they're looking to fund for it. So either one gives
Now
you
you're
a
going to have us
challenge.
paying much more attention to those.
Exactly.
Well,
Well, thank you.
if the state has to pay a lot of money, where do you think that's going to come
Well,
from?
it's like anything else. It's like, yeah. Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you. And I know Maddie makes Maddie feel a lot better because this is a
All
monster.
agree that we were gonna go with it?
Do you agree?
I do.
Do you agree? Do you agree?
Aye.
I'm thinking.
No, I agree with it.
Thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
And which, I'm sorry.
The bigger one, the
Work
first.
session? I don't think so.
We're gonna put it in a resolution.
Okay.
My favorite part of the whole presentation was after Mike and Kristen were talking about everything, and I was very upset, and I raised my hand and I said, so when is the IRS going to mail us these flyers to start getting started on this work? The entire room broke out into laughter, hysterical laughter, and I looked like a deer in headlights. I was like, what do you mean they're not going to mail it to me? How else will I know to do it?
I was down at the Association of Towns with Maddie, and that was a long car ride home because we had driven down that day. And I have to tell you that it was like, oh my God, oh my God. So thank you very, very much. And now you know all about aggregation too, right?
Driving is slippery, so watch out.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you driving back tonight?
No.
Oh.
Down here all week on
No, they have to go to the other 25 municipalities and get everybody on
And
board.
break their hearts.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Okay, so Kim's going to talk to us tonight about mortgage tax distribution.
This is just a whole lot of
Much tax.
tax. I know.
Just a lot of sad, just sad face
No,
across this entire
no.
website.
This, I'm sorry. No, I don't have anything for you. This is just informational and it's not going to take that long. It's not that long. So, the mortgage recording tax is a tax, Wayne could probably speak to that tax more than anybody because it is based on the sales of, you want to explain what a mortgage recording tax is and then I can go from there? Because I know you deal with it all the time.
Well, it's a tax, as we all know, and it's payable in order to record a mortgage.
Only if you get a mortgage, right?
If you get a mortgage, that's correct.
Get a mortgage.
And if you don't record the mortgage, you don't pay it. But in order to record the mortgage in the county clerk's office, you have to pay the mortgage recording tax, which in Westchester County is 1.05%, plus another 0.25% paid by the institutional lender. If there's no institutional lender, it's the mortgagor, is the person who's getting the money from, who pays the full 1.3%. I'm sorry. It's 1.3%, but in a institutional with an institutional lender, the institutional lender pays 0.25% of it. So that's for every mortgage. And in cities, it's high and could be higher.
I must tell you that on paper, it might be that the lender is paying the 0.25%, but somewhere along the line, you are paying that lender
Well,
back
yes,
again.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
but that's the way it
But
happens.
that's what a
It-
mortgage tax
That's
is.
what it is. That's correct.
So there's some significant funds that come through because of that. And so how that works, there's a real property tax law that states exactly how the funds are supposed to be gathered, the logistics of the money going to the county, and how the county is supposed to distribute that money out to the municipalities, villages, towns. In the real property tax law, there's a provision that says very quickly at the end that mortgage tax monies allotted to cities, towns, and villages shall be applied to the payment of the general expenses thereof. Now, when it says general expenses, it's a small g, just general expenses. So Tom is here too. He could talk all about this. The comptroller's office has a uniform system of accounts for towns, And they have, in their opinions, stated that due to that real property tax law, they interpret that that distribution is to go to the town's general fund. So in Westchester County, when the money comes through and they are going to distribute through a formula, their money, the village of Ossining gets their apportionment of the recording tax. The village of Briarcliff receives their apportionment of the recording tax. And the rest of that money that goes to the town gets put into, due to these current opinions and laws, into the town general fund. And that is a correct way that it is interpreted to be done. There's been some conversation from some of the people who live in the unincorporated town, I think throughout the years, and so they've questioned the fact that there's no apportionment that's going into the fund for the unincorporated town. So there's a feeling that they're not getting any, whether it be a small portion or whatever that would be in terms of the formula. So we looked into what, if any, remedy there was to this, considering this seems to be born out of the real property tax law. And when we contacted the comptroller's office, what we were told is, we know this, we're Ossining, we're unique. We're always unique. We're unique. We are unique. So our unincorporated town portion, as we know, is pretty much the smallest portion of the entirety of the town. And therefore, it really doesn't come up to most other towns. The town of Cortland, the town of Mount Pleasant, the town of, all of those towns their towns are bigger than the sum of their villages and hamlets. So the chances of the comptroller's office rewriting this opinion or provision specifically for those towns that don't fit the norm is probably not high. But what can be done is that this board could request a resolution to the legislators requesting a bill to have a special law passed for us. It happens all the time in the legislation for municipalities ask for many different special changes. From my knowledge, I don't know that I don't think our legislators would have a problem with we can speak, you can reach out to see if they'd be willing to carry it. And in terms of the governor, I have no direct knowledge that he has any issue, he would have any particular issue with this. The governor is known to have likes and dislikes. I don't know that there's any particular like or dislike about this. And I I don't know what the apportionment for formula would end up being.
Right, because right now, Tom, could I ask you, right now, the village of Ossining gets what percent of the bucket of mortgage tax comes in? No, it's not evenly distributed at all.
Well, the way the formula is worked, I would say the village of Ossining gets about 1/6 of the total amount.
1/6.
Briarcliff gets about 1/6 of the amount, and the town of Ossining gets about 4/6 of the amount.
Okay, so it might be, for the unincorporated being the smallest, you might not get a sixth either, and you might.
1/4.
Yeah, less, because 1/6, 1/12 or something.
Oh,
yeah.
1/12.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would have to look at that. Because we have so much luck so far sending stuff up that our
last
senator
thing
and
that
assemblywoman they take our stuff up there.
They do. The last thing that we asked for was something that the governor is known not, and he's trying to get, which was the peace officer, I think, status. He's known to want the whole legislature to pass a blanket. So
I just think it's important that people realize, and we can look into it a little bit further. We're going to let the guys get through audit, but we can look into it a little bit more and see. But I just want everyone to be clear out there that the bucket of money that goes into town general, the 4/6, is not what's due the unincorporated.
No.
Because some people might think it's
no.
portioned that way. I just want to make sure because it could be a misunderstanding. They look at the budget line, they say this is a revenue. it would be something quite smaller than that. And so we just have to make sure that people don't say, wow, we're missing out on,
Well, I
you
think,
know.
I think I have one from a distribution from back in 2013. So clearly this is, or even, clearly this is a moving target. Maybe Tom knows. It's a moving target, obviously, because it's based on the recordings. But, I mean,
well, the amount's a moving target, not
right.
not the percentage.
no, the
Yeah,
amount
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
money. So you can't really say exactly, as you
Right.
say, what it would be. You know, it sounds to me like the villages, you're saying 1/6 of the bucket. It might be in a year. I mean, is this paid in quarters? Is this paid? Do we receive this in
They're paid twice a year.
twice a year? So, are let's say the village is receiving $100,000, $50,000?
The village of Ossining receives about $185,000.
So even if it was half of that,
You're talking about many, many more parcels in the village of Austin than in the
they
town.
don't do it that way. They don't. The money is not sent back by where the. It's not.
Valuation, it's based strictly on the numbers in the statute.
I believe the money comes back to the home community. And
Right.
then it gets allocated based on assessments.
On assessed
On
value.
assessments.
Assessed value.
Right. That's what I was just saying.
Oh, so when we're finished our reassessment, we'll definitely know what everybody's at right now, you know.
Right, but that's, it's not going to affect the amount that the town and the villages here receive compared to the rest of the county.
Oh, no, not at all, not at
Right.
all. It's going to only possibly
Right.
adjust a distribution of, so. So, okay, but, so it's interesting to know that the village of Austin, which has many more parcels or many more, their assessed value, Briarcliff has the highest assessed value. They don't have as many homes, but their total assessed value,
I think they receive less than the village of Ossining receives.
okay, so we'll do some investigations, but
Right.
I'm glad that you cleared up the fact that, because this has been an ongoing back and forth, that the way that we have been doing it for umpteen years
Yeah.
is the correct way according to the comptroller's
Well,
decisions.
yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that while the real property tax law states that it should be for general expenses, somehow the comptroller's office equated that with the general fund. But because of that, that is what people do, and it says it should be done that way. I think it's, for us to take a look to see whether, we can ask our legislators. I think they would have no problem with us. We would pass a resolution here asking them to carry that bill, and then that bill would go up, and we would see whether or not it would be signed by the governor. But I think that would go, I think that the unincorporated town would feel that they're getting some apportionment, which they are not receiving now, and whether that be a small apportionment, if it's, I once had somebody tell me $1 is $1, right? So.
Otherwise, we would distribute it how?
No,
The
all
way
goes
it
into our
is
general
being
fund.
distributed, the way it has always and is rightfully distributed, is the village of Ossining gets their portion, the village of Briarcliff gets their portion, and the rest of it goes into the town general fund,
Which is everybody.
which is everybody. There's no portion that is provided to the unincorporated town.
Right.
So what's the purpose of sending it, to Albany?
That they want a little piece of it for the unincorporated, that little piece of that pie. Yeah, of the
The
pie.
unincorporated get
Yes.
nothing?
Nothing.
Right now, and never have.
Okay.
But it's almost like, when we did this, when we went back a few years ago, when we went back and we looked at the cable franchise fees, we moved them accordingly, and so we'll look at this later. But I just want everyone to know that it isn't that the villages are getting large sums of, they're getting significant money, but most of it is going to the town general, which is everyone's pot of money, and pays for a lot of their tax departments and their assessments.
So I guess the question is whether the board would be willing to.
I think we have to look, I can't imagine we wouldn't be, but we have to look at the numbers and what steps has to be taken to do it, so. Okay? So we'll work on that après audit, Tom. Thank you. Okay, Westchester County Employee Assistant Program Contract, Maddie.
This will be seconds. This will be very quick. So
I
we've
like
spoken.
seconds.
Yeah, we've spoken. Well, time me. We've spoken about this before. The Employee Assistance Program through Westchester County is something that the town has done for as long back as we seem to have records of it existing. But basically, our contract is up, and they're looking for another 4-year contract with us. They've not raised the rates. We pay per employee. So we have sort of a blended average of employees that we have, regular part-timers, full-timers, elected officials, and then like our seasonal folks. So it's sort of a moving number. But they've not changed the rates, but they've basically just asked us to re-sign a contract with them. In case anybody's unfamiliar, the Employee Assistance Program is something that we pay for that's offered to all of our employees on a confidential basis. Basically, if they're struggling with something in their work life, home life, what have you, they can go and speak with someone at EAP free of charge. It's encouraged. I don't, obviously I wouldn't know if employees were using it because it's confidential, but everyone always seems surprised to hear that it exists over and over again. So I just want to remind everyone that it does. They've also come and done wonderful trainings for us. The lady Priscilla has done some really, really excellent, or Pamela has done some really, really excellent, very interactive training. Yeah, one of those P names. And so I think she did one earlier this year about conflict resolution, I think was the one that we just did. And I think everybody actually got a lot out of it. And this is all included in the price. It's about $2,000 a year. So it's certainly a bargain, and we wish that people used it more, but I just want to get your...
If they need it.
Right. Just get everybody's okay to put a resolution on for next week to sign the contract.
Absolutely. I have no problem. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay, so we came out of tonight with 2 resolutions, one for the Affordable Care Act reporting requirements and for the Westchester County Employee Assistant Program contract. And on the Community Choice Aggregate, we're going to talk about that on our March 21st, April. I can't get out of March. I'm having trouble getting out of March. I know. I'm telling you, I can't believe it's April. On our April 21st is a town hall meeting. Mark your calendars. It is not a 5th Tuesday. It's not optional. It is our town hall meeting, and we're going to be talking at our town hall meeting about no parking roads. Michael is going to be there. He's on taking a little break right now, and he'll be there to talk about the 7 proposed roads that we want to change the no parking on. At the same time, we're going to talk about this community choice aggregate one more time, where we'll open it up for community questions and stuff like that. And then if we choose to, we can decide then whether we want to have another public hearing on it, and then see if we want to proceed forward with that. So we did a lot of real down and dirty stuff tonight. So it's very good that we got this done. We are going into audit tomorrow. Are we not, Tom? Is it tomorrow?
It could start tomorrow.
So, I thought it was. So we want to remind, but we also want to remind everybody that we have the Solarize program going on, and you have to sign up by June 1st. We have some groups. If you go to www.solarizedausting.com/Austing-Briarcliff. If you just go to solarize-westchester.com, you can go right into the Austing thing. Or you can go to the townofausting.com webpage, go to the bottom of the home page, and there's a Solarize button on there. We want to remind everyone that on Saturday, we will be having our baseball, our Jesse Collier parade, which we all love to do, and it's supposed to be a beautiful day. The fields are officially open. We were questioning whether they would be ready because the snow melt was so slow, and we don't want to wreck the fields so that later in the year we don't have fields. But the fields are open. There will be a decision made if it rains today, tomorrow, and Thursday. There'll be a decision made as to whether the games will be played on Saturday. But we're very excited about all the games starting. We're going into our spring sports section. And we also want to remind you that on April 18th, the next Saturday, is the official Earth Day celebration down at the Lewis Angle Waterfront Park. There'll be lots of vendors there, a lot of green vendors. food and music, as well as lots of activities. So won't you join us down there and come down to the waterfront?
What time? What's the timing for?
I believe it starts at 11. I believe it starts at 11 to 4. Yeah, it's like 11 to 4. Maddie can check that out for us. Yeah. And we also want to make sure that that one of the things that you'll be able to see down there is the poster by Jasmine Mason, 11th grader, who was chosen for her art to be put on the wall on the Hudson River side of the Comfort Station. We had this great mural put on the wall on the train station side last year, and now will be on the Hudson River side of the Comfort Station, and it's going to be that's the nicest way to put it, and it's going to be facing the river, and it's more of a welcome to Ossining for all those boaters out there that are going by, and it was a great piece of art she did, and I have to say that every person that put their art piece into this show was outstanding. We have a school system that has such a variety of very, very creative young people, whether it be sports, music, art, just languages, science, whatever it is. They're very, very good. We also have a poster contest that the posters will be down at the waterfront that day. Of the AMD did a poster contest, and the theme was solar, which is the theme of our Green Ossining. Green Ossining is the sponsors of our Earth Day celebration, so we hope to see you there. And all those winning posters will be down at the waterfront that day, too. And again, there'll be lots of music, lots of fun. And anybody have? It's 11 to 4. I thought so. I would have made it shorter, but 11 to 4 is good. 11 to 4. Just want to remind people, because in the past, we did Stash the Trash on the same day as the Earth Day celebration, and we found it to be too confusing because we have sports the same day. Lots of kids are playing baseball and stuff. So we do it on May 9th. We will be joining Riverkeeper for the River Sweep, and that will be our Stash the Trash day. So we're looking for a lot of excitement. I do want to point out one other thing. One of the activities that will be happening at Green Ossining Earth Day will be, there'll be some training and some preliminary kayaking lessons done down at the beach. So it's going to be very, very cool. The Recreation Department, because Chris Soy, our new Superintendent of Parks and Recreation and Parks, he likes it to go that way, will be the one doing that program down at the beach. So that'll be a lot of fun. So want you to enjoy yourself. I'm hoping everybody is having a good Passover holiday. I hope everybody had a good Easter that celebrates. And we will see you next Tuesday at the courthouse, 88 Spring Street, for our legislative meeting, and have a good night. We're moving into executive session, Madam Clerk, for personnel. Moving into executive session for personnel. Do I have?
Motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good weekend.